Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama, downtown Northport, anywhere that you're watching the Joe Gaither Show, right here on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, right here on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com. Of course, I am Joe Gaither. Had a lot of fun the last 2 days up in Birmingham. You're getting a little double dip. You didn't get an episode yesterday because I was doing a lot of interviews, but we put it out this morning, all the interviews that we did at SEC Media Days. You can check that out on all the platforms I just mentioned. We had talked to Greg Sankey. We talked to Coach Wim Sanderson, Richard Hendricks. We had a great time up there in Birmingham at the Grand Bohemian Hotel, and they did a great job covering SEC Media Days. We will end this episode with my 3 conversations with the Alabama women's team. I talked to Kristy Curry, I talked to Loyal McQueen, and I also talked to Sarah Ashlee Barker. So we'll end the episode with those conversations, but it's time to get back to football. I mean, we're right smack in the middle of football season, and we're excited about the third Saturday in October. It's going to be a big one right here in Tuscaloosa. Maybe it hasn't been a big one for you over the last 15 years, but it certainly became a big one after last year's result. Tennessee beating Alabama for the first time in 16 years, 52-49 in the Wild game in Neyland Stadium. So all eyes are on this weekend's game. Will Alabama take revenge against the Tennessee Vols? But more importantly, Alabama has to hold serve and continue to take that first place spot in the SEC West. So we will see all about what is going to be this weekend in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Of course, you can follow us at BamaCentral.com, the Sports Illustrated home for your Alabama Crimson Tide. Katie Wyndham and Austin Hannon will be in Bryant-Denny Stadium. I'll be manning things from home base, and so we're going to have a great weekend covering football. The rest of the episode today will be joined by Dan Harralson of USA Today Vols Wire. He's going to be joining us, and we really appreciate him. He's been traveling all day. He's come down for the weekend to, of course, cover the game and see if the Tennessee Vols will start a winning streak. They won 1 game. You got to win 2 games to get on a winning streak. So we're very excited to talk to Dan. We're going to set this up like that. Yes, perfect, like that. And we're going to bring him right in. You can follow him on the X Machine on Twitter at Dan Harralson. He does all kinds of great work with the USA Today network at Vols Wire, and really nobody better to bring us Tennessee coverage than Dan Harralson. Dan, thanks so much for your time, man. I appreciate you squeezing us in. I know it's been a crazy travel day, and you got a busy weekend ahead.
Yeah. Thank you for reaching out, having me on. And yeah, like you said, travel day today and big game. Of course, top 15 matchup in Tuscaloosa on Saturday if you're looking at the coaches poll. And like you said, 52-49 last year in Neyland Stadium. And really 2021 at Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa, Josh Heupel's first season. Had Alabama on the ropes for a little bit that first half and really going into the third quarter, had some good offensive plays there. But as Nick Saban has done with his Alabama teams throughout the streak of 15 games since he's been at Alabama for last year, he found ways to win, and he really had a lopsided fourth quarter in that matchup, Josh Heupel's first year. So who knows what will happen Saturday in Josh Heupel's third season, his third game in this series. But you look at all the stats, nationally ranked statistics in FBS, and Alabama and Tennessee is pretty much side by side going through the whole list. I put something out on that yesterday on Vols Wire. And, look at penalties. Not good for either team, but they're side by side. I think they're tied for 101st nationally. So it's kind of ironic how everything is so close, and the defenses have played pretty well this year for both teams. And then offensively, we all know Alabama's got some talent. Tennessee's got some talent with the scheme and everything with Josh Heupel. They just have not put it together for both teams. Through 6 games for Tennessee, 7 for Alabama so far. So we'll see if one or both teams or both teams get something going or not get something going Saturday. We'll see what happens and see what transpires.
Absolutely, and you're hitting right on my thought process for the weekend. I mean, without looking at the numbers like you have, the teams look exactly the same. 2 studly defenses, 2 offenses that have an athletic quarterback that might have been struggling with maybe accuracy issues, decision-making issues, an offensive line that, while you've been able to run the ball, but has not always been great. are we going to see a 13-17? Are we going to see a 2017, a low-scoring, ugly defensive affair? Because Alabama's defense has been really good this year, but Tennessee's defense, oh my gosh, is all leading the nation. Second in the nation in sacks, just getting after people, tackles for a loss, tortured Max Johnson in Texas A&M last weekend in South Carolina 3 weekends before that. So are we in for a defensive slugfest in this matchup on Saturday?
Could be. I told somebody yesterday or the day before, historically in Tuscaloosa, of course, 1999 was the first year that they started playing the Alabama-Tennessee game every other year in this series. Of course, Legion Field back in the day before that. But since they brought it back to Tuscaloosa every other year, look at 03. I mean, it's 51-43. Look at 05, 6-3. So I was telling somebody, if the offenses get going, if the amount of talent there is, and they finally put things together, you could see a high-scoring game like 03. Of course, that went into 5 overtimes, but still the nature of that score. And then, but if we're still seeing what we have seen the last few weeks from both squads, the offense can't get going. I don't know if it'll be 6-3 a la like 2005, but who knows? I mean, maybe we'll see like a 2013 type game or a 24-21, 2 scores that both Alabama and Tennessee were both part of last week against Arkansas and Texas A&M.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and really, I think it's all going to come down to the offensive lines. Can they protect their quarterbacks? Can they protect their quarterbacks, and will each quarterback make good decisions and be able to deliver the football? Coach Saban's been talking a lot this year about Jalen Milroe just needs to be a point guard and get the ball out and distribute the football. Talk to me about Joe Milton. Everybody went into the season as Joe Milton's a top 3 quarterback in the league, probably, especially, replacing Hendon Hooker with his unfortunate ACL injury last year. I think a lot of people had a lot of high hopes for Joe Milton, but he hasn't necessarily shown he hasn't necessarily acquitted himself as one of the top 3 quarterbacks. I think he still got it in him as a dual threat guy, but right now I think the narrative is just, oh well, he can throw it 90 yards, but can he hit a receiver 5 yards down the field? What's been the Joe Milton story, and really how confident are you in him this Saturday making good decisions in Bryant-Denny Stadium?
Right. So before the year, I said, before we even saw any kind of games and, just going through fall camp and all that stuff, I thought, and I still think this, just the trust in Josh Heupel to roll him out there this year, because obviously in this nature in college football, the landscape, he could have hit the portal, but on both sides, Milton or Heupel could have got somebody else in, but he stuck with Joe. Joe's been a tremendous person off the field. Everybody loves him. He does things the right way. He elected not to transfer when he lost the job due to injury to Hendon Hooker. He's got the locker room. So all that's very important. And, he's gifted. He's the size of a person like Cam Newton. He just needs to put everything together. But I'll say this. Sure, he hasn't looked good on some plays, but some plays he's looked really good, and the receivers multiple times have just dropped balls for him. So that's why I kind of get at when saying everything needs to come together. But that's one element. The other element for the first 4 games, including the loss at Florida, senior center Cooper Mays was out with the hernia injury, and he comes back for the South Carolina game. Of course, you have an off week after that, and you have A&M last week. Offenses looked a lot better with him in, just from a communication standpoint, helping the tempo, and then obviously that's going to help your ground game out a ton also, and then pass protection, all that good stuff in the passing game. So Cooper Mays, I'm very anxious to see how he fits into this Alabama game. I don't know. I just think the last 2 weeks plus having that off week after that South Carolina game has really helped him and just this offensive unit.
Well, one thing that's been very strong all year, despite Joe Milton's maybe inconsistencies, is the running game. You got Jalen Wright, Jabari Small, and Dylan Sampson. All 3 guys have been highly effective this year. highly effective this year. And really, Tennessee's rushing attack is going to be an issue, or going to be an area that Alabama needs to defend, especially when you consider the high tempo style of Josh Heupel's offense. If Tennessee can rip off 3-4 yards a carry, even rip off 4 yards on first down, it just sets everything up, and it opens up the passing game, because Coach Saban's going to have to try to get the defense to key in on the running game, especially with the wide splits. We saw that last year, Tennessee spreading them out really, really wide, and that's obviously going to be a part of the offense. Spread them out really wide, it makes for light boxes, and Tennessee's taking advantage of it. What have you seen in the Tennessee running game?
Oh, it's been good. I mean, obviously that they'd probably like to have a few more plays and really Dylan Sampson more in that Florida game that they lost. But the defense kind of let that one slip away, just losing a couple of plays there. But yeah, the running game, and there's a misconception about Josh Heupel's offense that it's
Please
just
clear it up.
Yeah, vertical shots. I mean, what it basically is, it's the Baylor offense when they were on a run about 10 years ago. And now you're seeing him and some other schools do this. Alex Golish at USF, of course, you guys got a taste of that. I guess that was the second or third game for Alabama. But, yeah, I like the offense. I think it puts very much of a premium on the running game. And we all know in the Southeastern Conference and big boy football and college football, you got to be able to run the ball and play defense. And right now, Tennessee's doing both of those. And that's why I say when the passing game does come along for Tennessee, who knows what the ceiling is for this team. And we've seen so many teams really the last 10, 15 years. I mean, look at Auburn back in 2013 when they lost early at LSU and really had a premium on the ground game. And they pretty much ran the table until they lost Florida State in the national championship game. I'm not saying Tennessee's going to do something like that, but you just never know. Look at Alabama. Maybe they put it together Saturday against Tennessee and they make a run. I mean, I think Alabama, you look at Tennessee, you look at Georgia, you look at Ole Miss. Even if LSU wins out, they have a shot, even with 2 losses. That's how it's so wide open this year in the Southeastern Conference and in college football as a whole, and it's pretty fun to watch.
Absolutely, and you hit on really my next question. One of my best friends is a Tennessee fan, lifelong Tennessee fan, and all year long is we're going to go down to the swamp and we're going to beat them this year. We're going to go down to the swamp and get that win. It's finally our time. Obviously, it didn't happen. I'm not trying to rub anybody's face. That didn't happen, and it really felt like, at least from his perspective, or what I got from him, is that really took a lot of air out of the Tennessee sails. But then it kind of rebounds by beating South Carolina. Obviously, South Carolina in them the history last year with Hendon Hooker's ACL injury and losing that game, and kind of the season not falling apart, but not finishing the way that you wanted to. So that kind of seemed like it gave them new life. And then you beat A&M last week, who Alabama is very familiar with, had played a really close game out in College Station. It seems like, especially combined with Brock Bowers' ankle injury, that the Tennessee fans feel, or the Tennessee fan base feels like, you beat Alabama on Saturday, and really you can get rolling and be one of these national contenders. What's the real feel for this season with Josh Heupel? I know everybody's got really excited about next year with Nico Iamaleava and the recruiting class continuing to grow, continuing to stockpile talent. But really, what's the current feel of Vol Nation? Because I'm not on Tennessee radio. I don't really interact too much with Tennessee fans outside of my buddy Taylor. What's the feel of Tennessee fans from this season?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of hype and no pun intended there, but a lot of buzz going in, especially after last year, going into this year. And like I said, Joe spent the whole offseason just a community guy. Everybody likes him and all that good stuff. So there's a lot of hype around it. And then, but yeah, there's a huge hangover as far as what you hear the fans say on social media or the airwaves after that Florida game, because we all know that's not the best Florida team.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's been on repeat at Gainesville for so many years for Tennessee. Tennessee has not been the best before Heupel. We all know that. But at the same time, Florida hasn't been too much better, And that's why a lot of people would just kind of look at that game, especially this year, like, man, how did that happen? But I go back to Cooper Mays, things like that early on in the season. They can still turn this thing around. And I just think that the way Josh Heupel has played Alabama 2 straight years, and granted, if things got out of control that first year, like I mentioned in 2021, but I mean, really 6 good quarters against Alabama, that they believe they can go down there and win. And when you believe and you have an identity as far as his system and his approach off.
Yeah, it's gonna be my next question to Dan is the defensive resurgence for Tennessee. I mean, last year you gave up 49 points to Tennessee or to Alabama. If Jahmyr Gibbs makes that reception, if Jahmyr Gibbs makes that Bryce Young reception, he puts Alabama down on the goal line, and Alabama is going to be the one trying to make that game-winning interception. But no, Jahmyr Gibbs did not make that catch, and Tennessee went the other way. Dan, I think I got you back, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'm in
It's all
a
good.
hotel, so maybe I got disconnected
Oh,
there.
it is
I'm not
A-okay.
sure the last thing you heard me say, but
Oh, well, let's move right into Tennessee's defense, because Tennessee's defense has really carried carried the load. I mean, they held A&M last week to low points, and that obviously has been the sacks have been well documented. Tell us about some of the stars on the Tennessee defense, and really how has Tennessee's defense taken that big step forward this season?
yeah, I mean, I think everybody through the Southeastern Conference landscape is very familiar with Rodney Garner, the defensive line coach, who's had stops at Auburn and Georgia, and he's in his 3rd season under Josh Heupel at Tennessee. You can just tell the front seven, really that defensive line where he's over, but the front seven has been tremendous. James Pierce Jr. Out on the edge, he's done a terrific job. We'll see if he can take it to the next level against a team like Alabama. But yeah, he's been. I think he's got 6 sacks on the year, so 6 games he's averaging a sack a game, so that's pretty good. But linebackers like Aaron Beasley, who's been around since the Pruitt days, he's top. I think he's the leading tackler for Tennessee. Elijah Herring, a young guy, he's right behind Beasley in terms of statistics. You got Tyler Barron, he's on the opposite side of Pierce. He's done a tremendous job. He's finally healthy this year, and he's a senior, so it's kind of good to see him get going. Another young guy, Arion Carter, he's in the linebacker core doing a great job. Omar Norman Lotz, he is expected to be back. We'll see how that actually goes Saturday against Alabama, but he transferred in on the defensive line from Arizona State. He's done a pretty good job, especially depth-wise. But they are missing Keenan Peely. He got banged up against Virginia in the opening game in Nashville there at Nissan Stadium. He transferred in from BYU, and, man, things probably would have went a little bit different going back to that Florida game if he's in there and healthy, because he's a big communication guy. So that Florida game was just a bad spot on both sides of the ball. Not trying to make any excuses for Heupel's team, but it's just part of it. But yeah, I like watching the energy that James Pierce Jr. brings, and like I said, we'll see if he can kind of match what he's done through 6 games and put it on display in a big rivalry game like this on the 3rd Saturday in October.
Alabama's really struggled with speed rushers. You saw Landon Jackson, the Arkansas defensive end, got 3.5, 4 sacks around. He beat Proctor twice. He beat Pritchett twice as Alabama's rotating left tackles. Has really struggled with speed rushers and has really struggled with twisting stunts. Not necessarily blitzes, but stunts that in tackle stunts, tackle in stunts. Whoever goes first, it has kind of confused the Alabama offensive line. Is that going to be something that Alabama is going to deal with a lot on Saturday?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I think how you alleviate that pressure is, I think it falls back on Jalen Milroe. From what I've seen of him, he looks pretty talented with his legs. I think if he can, just get out of the pocket there a little bit and either use his legs or do some half rolls, shift the defense, and make some explosive plays downfield with guys like Jermaine Burton, that could be a recipe for disaster for Tennessee. So I think we all know with the defense, I think for both teams are going to bring to the table. Maybe that scales back just a little bit since it's a big rival game. But I think whoever has the best quarterback play is probably going to win this game. And you never know. Maybe Jalen Milroe puts things together and really can do a 50-50 type game with his legs and his arm. So I think it's very interesting to see how Tennessee would respond in a situation like this. And on the flip side, on Tennessee's sake, if I think it was the A&M game, I think maybe A&M and South Carolina, there was a couple option plays with Joe Milton. He did a pretty good job at that. Maybe we see a little bit more against Alabama with that. And then D. Williams, the returner who returned a punt for a touchdown last week against A&M. There's been speculation the last few weeks that we could see him get some offensive snaps. He's a defensive back, but he really doesn't get a lot of PT on that side of the ball, but he's definitely a special teams returner and very effective at that. But who knows? Maybe we'll see him on the offense finally. And I'll give you this last thing here. Somebody that, of course, we don't usually talk about special teams in terms of punting and kicking that much, but keep an eye on Josh Turbyville. He does the kickoffs. That guy, the Virginia game was not the best for him, but since then he's pretty much money getting touchbacks. So if you can't return it, then you don't have to deal with some of the talented players that Alabama has, and that could be huge for Tennessee. Just continue to kick the ball out of the end zone.
All right, I got just two more questions for you. We're talking to Dan Harralson of Vols Wire. He's going to be in town covering Alabama and Tennessee. One, on the rivalry. Obviously, it's been well documented, a long rivalry, heated rivalry. Last year's game ended in Tennessee's favor. You tear down the goalposts and smoke the cigars. That's great. Enjoy the win. What's going to mean to you? Next year, SEC's schedule is going to be a little bit different, and the model is still up for debate. What's it going to mean if Alabama and Tennessee aren't playing every single year, if it falls into one of these rotation type games?
Well, it's that one, and you look at Auburn, Georgia. I mean, that one, I mean, they're both huge, but, I mean, Auburn, Georgia's the oldest, right? It's the deep South's oldest. I mean, of course, it sounds like if you go to a 1-7, you protect that one, and it looks like Florida will play Georgia, and then, of course, Bama, Auburn for the Iron Bowl. But, yeah, Tennessee would probably get stuck with Vanderbilt, which I think Tennessee fans wouldn't mind seeing that.
Sure.
But I'll say this, historically, I don't like it, but at the same time, since we're being forced to see this expansion take place with OU and Texas, and, of course, A&M Missouri 10-plus years in now, with the amount of teams, I think if you're going to have a super conference like this, maybe a 1-7 is okay just so you can rotate it around. And I think Saban may have even mentioned this at one point recently that, it's good that if someone in your recruiting class would get to see the whole conference at least once. So I guess that's kind of cool. But, part of the reason I really wanted to cover this game, I mean, obviously it's my job and everything, but a little extra token to it is you just never know. This could be Tennessee's last time playing Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa. I mean,
certainly. And
we just don't know what's actually going to transpire or take place after next year, since we know next year's schedule and beyond. So I don't know. I think just enjoy it. I mean, everything that we saw expansion-wise through not just the SEC but other conferences, especially the Pac-12 imploding, just enjoy this 2023 season because it's the last one throughout college football that you'll see like we kind of grew up on.
Absolutely. Dan, well, I appreciate your time. I know you've been traveling today, getting down to Birmingham, and I know what travel does. It always throws everything off a little bit. So why don't we wrap up with just kind of your predictions on the game? Will Tennessee start a new streak, go 2 in a row? What's going to be your feel and your prediction for the ball game?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it can go so many different ways. I thought that last week with Tennessee and Texas A&M, and last week was huge for Josh Heupel, not just to get the win, but it's first time winning at Tennessee without scoring 30 points. So when you start checking those things off, you start realizing, okay, well, maybe he's got something to play with. I just don't understand why they haven't been able to put everything together offensively. Same thing with Alabama. I mean, we all know Alabama's got a great deal of talented players and a really good coach, great coach. But I don't know. It can go so many different ways. I'm kind of a believer of this Tennessee defense, the front seven, and it really feels in a weird way to pick the score. But I want to go 30-24 Tennessee. But who knows? I've been wrong before. So
well, we've all been wrong before, but we've all been right a couple of times. So you gotta take that into consideration. 30-24 would make for a great game, and really, that's all I'm after. I really want to see another great game. Last year's game didn't go the Alabama way, but goodness gracious, take it for a 3-hour entertainment experience, and it absolutely was that. So hopefully, we can repeat that and have another great game. I am very fearful or apprehensive about the Tennessee front. I think that's going to create a lot of problems. And if you can speed up Jalen Milroe, I think he's kind of cleaned up the turnover issue to a degree, but he's been taking a ton of sacks due to just being more careful with the football. So I might set Alabama behind the chains, and you get the Tennessee offense rolling. You leave the Alabama defense out there for a while. Those plays start to stack up, and you never know what can happen.
That's right. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Dan, tell everybody where they can find you one more time, and we'll get you out of here, and I appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah, ballswire.com and on social media at Dan Harralson.
Thank you so much for your time, man. Enjoy your night in Birmingham.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. That's Dan Harralson joining us from Ballswire. You can follow him on the Twitter machine at Dan Harralson. He's going to be covering all things Tennessee, especially this weekend. You're going to want to pay attention to him as he'll be in the Bryant-Denny Stadium press box. Had a lot of fun talking to him, getting ready for the game. We will do more of that tomorrow. It's going to be Football Friday tomorrow with Katie Wyndham and whoever else we can find on the Bama Central team, making some picks and finding out how everybody feels about the game. Of course, you're going to be able to follow all the Bama Central coverage at Bryant-Denny Stadium this weekend at Bama Central on the social media machines. We're excited about that. We're excited about the third Saturday in October. We're excited about a bye week a little bit. We're going to have a little bye week after that. So Nick Saban talking on Wednesday during his Wednesday press conference about this being kind of the hump of the season. And if you can get over the hump, maybe things will go downhill after that. We had a lot of fun at SEC Media Days the last 2 days. I didn't go live yesterday because of it. I was basically in Birmingham from at 10 a.m. till about 7 last night. It was great. It was a great experience. I've already played all the interviews that I did this morning on my social medias, and we posted it on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com. You can check it out. It's with Kevin Skarbinski, Coach Wimp Sanderson. We talked to Coach Seth Greenberg. Of course, we talked to SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey for a little bit. We caught up with Alabama basketball legend Richard Hendricks. You guys saw 2/3 of Blue Collar Unplugged with Matthew Gibson and Blake Byler, and then my friend Matt Stahl joined me from AL.com. So we had a blast yesterday in Birmingham. We got to be a part of the NATO's press conference. We got to be a part of listening to Aaron Estrada and Mark Sears. A little bit of news around Mark Sears today. John Rothstein basically putting out that Mark Sears will not be available for the closed scrimmage against TCU, and then he will probably not play against Wake Forest. It sounds like he's dealing with a little bit of a hamstring injury. Oh, no, he can exit. Yeah, that's perfect. You just texted me about that. Yep, perfect. There we go. So he was dealing with a little bit of a hamstring injury. He's going to be out for the closed scrimmage and likely out for the Wake Forest scrimmage. So we're going to look forward to basketball season. 18 days away now. You saw all the interviews yesterday. Let's finish with SEC women's basketball. SEC women's basketball was in Birmingham today, and I got back up there to the Grand Bohemian Hotel, and I talked to Kristy Curry, I talked to Loyal McQueen, and I talked to Sarah Ashlee Barker. The 3 Alabama contingent were gracious with their time. Look, they're expecting to have a good year. They've got a great freshman, Essence Cody, who they're really excited about. Coach Curry is excited about her team's depth. Yes, they finished 5th, 6th last year in the conference, going 9-7 in the conference. And look, it's a hard sledding in SEC women's basketball with South Carolina, with LSU at play. Tennessee, obviously, they're a powerful program as well. So I'm going to go ahead and play our interviews with Loyal McQueen, with Coach Kristy Curry, and with Sarah Ashlee Barker right here on the program. This is the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com. You're watching Facebook, Twitter, listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon, and I'm here with Loyal McQueen. at SEC Media Days, Women's Edition. Day number 2. Loyal, we got 19 days away from SEC basketball getting kicked off. What are you excited about leading this year's team?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get out there with my teammates. We've been, preparing and growing a lot with each other over the past couple of months, so I'm excited.
So Coach Curry up at the podium earlier said that the ladies were at your house cooking. So what were you cooking for the ladies? What are some of your favorite things to cook?
I'm not really a big cook.
They cook for you?
Yeah, they cook. So
I got you. What's your favorite thing to eat that they made?
I would say like salmon. I'm a big salmon, broccoli girl, so yeah.
We keep it nice and healthy. I see you. I got you.
Yeah.
So Coach Curry was talking about a lot of just having a very versatile roster this year. Right. What's some of the advantages of having such a versatile roster, especially when you're playing such tough teams at the SEC?
Yeah, I think this year, we're much bigger. We have a whole lot of 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2" guards that can actually put it on the floor and drive. And I think we have at all times, we're trying to have at least 4 people on the floor that can shoot it as well. So I just think, it's going to be hard to guard us. So I can't wait for you guys to see us.
I can't wait to be out there as well. Y'all led the SEC in three-point shooting. Now, you lost a couple players, but that's all right. She said that you have improved in your three-point shooting. So what's your mindset shooting the three? I was an awful three. Layups, I'm good. Three-point shooter, terrible.
Right. I mean, for me, just trying to take what the defense gives me. If I come off and it's open, I'm going to shoot it. And if not, just trying to get downhill. Trying to, create for myself and my teammates.
Now, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Spain, but for the people who haven't seen it, what was maybe your favorite things about going to Spain? You played a couple of games, you got some extra practices, but you obviously got to experience culture, food, experiences, sightseeing. What was some of your favorite things about Spain?
Yeah, I mean, Spain was an experience of a lifetime. The whole water experience for me was probably my favorite highlight of the whole entire trip, just because I'm not really a water person. So just, getting out there, trying something new was definitely exciting for me.
Let's talk about your teammate who's here with you, Ashlee Barker. Coach Curry said that she's going to be moving back to the 3. Talk about your connection with each other. Coach Curry's talked about the team's chemistry. Talk about your connection with her and what she really gives to the basketball team.
Yeah, I mean, me and SA's, relationship has grown over the past year or so. We're talking a lot more. We're just trying to lead this team so that way we can be the best version of ourselves and the team in a whole. SA brings, she's consistent. She brings a lot to the table. And every day she brings the same thing. So I'm excited to play with her.
All right, so you transferred from Georgia Tech, coming from Atlanta to Tuscaloosa. What's the biggest difference or adjustment that you had to make coming from Atlanta to Tuscaloosa, just from a city and cultural standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different. Atlanta's a big city.
Sure.
Tuscaloosa's a little bit smaller. But I mean, I'm from, Florence, South Carolina, so Tuscaloosa is kind of like more, my speed.
We like that.
So yeah, I love Tuscaloosa.
And what's your favorite thing about being a student athlete outside of obviously playing for the University of Alabama?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. I'm definitely more than an athlete. As you can see, graduate. So, I pride myself on, being more than just an athlete.
Talk to me about Essence Cody. Coach Curry was really giving her some praises up at the podium today. So what will she bring to the team as a freshman?
Yeah, I mean, Essence is great. She's great. She has a tremendous upside. She can shoot the ball. She can put it on the floor. She rebounds. So I'm excited to play with someone like her, and I can't wait for you guys to see what she brings.
It's going to be your second year in the program. How have you changed or embraced the leadership role that you're going to be really thrust into this year?
Yeah, I mean, last year my role was a little bit different, but I had great people to follow last year. So I'm excited for the new role that I have this year.
Coach Saban talks about noon basketball all the time, and this year he's been talking about Jalen Milroe being a point guard. Do you have any advice for Jalen Milroe or Coach Saban when they're using basketball analogies?
I mean, I would just say to Jalen, just keep being himself, and roll tide.
Roll tide. Thanks so much. It's Lloyd McQueen right here at SEC Media Days in Birmingham.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. I'm back at SEC Media Days with head coach Kristy Curry, and we're excited. 19 days away from tip-off. You're in here with Ashlee Barker and with Loyal McQueen. So just talk about what each of those players bring to your program.
Well, Loyal does a tremendous job in our backcourt. She's our quarterback. She's one of our phenomenal leaders. She has really had the opportunity to learn the system and played behind Hannah Barber It's her turn. It's her time to shine, and I'm so excited about her being our backcourt leader. And Sarah Ashlee Barker. I mean, there's not a greater competitor and a tougher player than Sarah Ashlee. So when she is a part of your front line, it makes you feel really good about what the future holds for this team this season.
Absolutely. When I was at the end of a practice, y'all were talking about what you're grateful for. I'm grateful for your time today. What are you grateful for here in Birmingham?
Just grateful for the SEC. You know, it just means more, and the opportunity to compete and coach and play in the best league in the country is truly a blessing.
Absolutely. You talked about Essence Cody up at the podium. How nerve-wracking is it to recruit someone from the 8th grade all the way and actually get them to commit and sign and get on campus, especially with how NIL and the transfer portal and just the landscape of college athletics?
Yeah, you know, it's a unique situation when you look at everything in college athletics right now, but it truly says a lot about Essence and her character. And, you know, I think it's allowed us to, you know, coach her even quicker because we have that relationship, and I think relationship starts in the recruiting process, and we work really hard at that at Alabama. We want them to know who we are as people and get to know them as people, and I think it's definitely given us a step ahead with Essence and her production and her progress and her growth, and you know, she's a special young lady and a special talent.
Can I ask you about your husband, Kelly? Everybody may just see Coach Kristy Curry, but it's a tandem. So what does your husband do, and what's the dynamic like coaching with your significant other?
Well, we're blessed, you know. I mean, Kelly is certainly doesn't get near enough credit. You know, we do this together. I mean, he's the mastermind behind the offense. So, you know, we didn't plan that. You know, we met through basketball, and then got called in one day by my head coach and said, "Hey, I'm going to hire Kelly," and I'm like, "Kelly who?" And it's been a long journey for us, but I feel so blessed. You know, the loyalty, the fact that we have 15 big girls at the office and 2 at home. We've truly been blessed, and the opportunity to get to work together.
You talked about loving Tuscaloosa up at the podium. What do you like about Tuscaloosa when you get to be away from basketball, which is rare?
I live on the lake. I love the water, so it's a lot of fun to live out on the lake and, you know, hop in the pontoon boat, to go on walks, spend time in the yard. So it's a pretty cool place and a beautiful place to live.
And Coach Kristy Curry, we're about to go into our season and really expecting to be a great season, building off last year, 2 20-win seasons in a row. So what gives you confidence? Last question in this year's squad.
A lot of confidence in the fact that they understand what that's about. You know, until you do it, you really don't understand it. And a lot of these kids have been a part of what we've done in the past and want to build on that. I don't think we're satisfied with where we're at, but we're really excited about where we're headed.
Coach Kristy Curry at SEC Media Days right here in Birmingham. We're excited. 20 days away, 19 days away from tip-off of the SEC season. I'm back at SEC Media Days in Birmingham with Sarah Ashlee Barker. Sarah Ashlee is going to be leading the Crimson Tide this season. 19 days away from tip-off. Sarah Ashlee, you have a great history at the University of Alabama, but I've heard your father say before, you are the most competitive and most athletic Barker child. What goes into competing with your brothers who both play college quarterback?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I grew up with 3 brothers, a twin, 2 older ones, and every single day we were out playing football. They would tackle me. They didn't even care if I was a girl or not. And so I think that's where I get my toughness and grittiness from, is just them. Just because when I played in the driveway too, they were blocking my shots. Didn't care if they knocked me to the ground. They didn't care if I cried. Like, it was whatever. So I'm just very grateful for that.
How does it prepare you for the SEC basketball, which is the toughest college basketball league in the country?
No, absolutely. I think that if you were to ask every single player in the SEC, did they play against guys when they grew up, and they would probably say yes. And so I think that's where it's just the grittiness and the toughness that the SEC brings, and just how hard everybody plays. It's honestly really fun just to be a part of it, and really fun to see everybody just diving on the floor and trying to make those hustle plays and just playing really, really gritty.
I asked Loyal about you, but I'm going to ask you about Loyal. What does she bring to this team, and what do you see in her second year with the Crimson Tide?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got 3 leaders on this team. It's going to be me, Loyal McQueen, and Aaliyah Knight. I think the biggest thing for me that I've seen Loyal grow in a way is just last year at times, I think that coming off the bench, being a point guard coming off, it's kind of hard to lead your team in that role. And so I think this year she's really stepped up and taken over that leadership role from a point guard. Like, I've truly never been with a point guard that talks and demands so much that she's done. And just to see how she's grown from a year, it's honestly truly amazing. But I'm not surprised at all, because that's just who she is.
Coach Curry, talk about you moving kind of back into the 3, more into your traditional role.
Yes.
Do you feel more comfortable with that? Excited about having a bigger year in that position?
Absolutely. I think with Alabama offense, the 1 through 4 is kind of the same. you're all out on the perimeter, so it's really no adjustment to me at all. I think it's more, sometimes I'm more in the corner than I am kind of driving from the top, and just understanding that. But it gives me opportunity to get different looks. It gives me opportunity to stay more at the three-point line and shoot some more threes and just be confident about it. But I think that within our offense, there's nothing that I was like, oh, I'm changing really anything at all. It's really just kind of that number, the 3 to 4 or the 4 to 3. So.
All right, I have a big rumor that you and Macy Clem, Alabama soccer player, are good friends. So
We are.
they're finishing up their season. How often do y'all talk and text, and how often are you encouraging one another? What is your message to her finishing her season, and her message to you starting yours?
So absolutely, Macy and I are definitely really, really good friends. I actually live with her, so
Okay.
I live with 3.
No text messages required.
Right, I live with 3 soccer players, and Kate Henderson and Bella, and it's just truly amazing. They're amazing people, and just being able to, I go to all their home games, I watch all their away games, I'm going to watch their game tonight, but just being able to have people who just love to play the game that they're playing, and they love to compete, and they've had a great year. All 3 of them are really, really good players. And when you talk about Macy, like Macy's probably one of the grittiest people I've ever been around, and she just honestly has taught me from a level of just talking about kind of understanding how do you control your emotions, and she's really good at that, and she's done a great job in just being that with me, and it's just a lot of fun to be able to watch all of them play. And Macy does not back down from anything, and that's kind of how we both are. We're both gritty, we're both tough, and it's just awesome. I can't wait to watch them play tonight.
All right, last question. Everybody's leaving you. So what's going to be your biggest goal or your biggest plans going into this year?
Honestly, I'll just leave it as simple as this. I want to have fun, and I want to be able to represent the University of Alabama. And I also want people to know that there's a lot more bigger things than basketball, and that's Jesus, and that's the most important thing to me in my life. And I'll never back down from saying that, because I'm not perfect. The only person that is perfect is Jesus, and I'm always going to say that, and I'm always going to be right there, and knowing that His plan is always the best plan, and I have nothing to stress about, because the greatest glory in life is Jesus.
I give you a big old amen for that, and roll tide. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Sarah
you.
Ashlee Barker with the University of Alabama Women's Basketball at SEC Media Days in Birmingham. We're 19 days away from starting the season.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
It was a lot of fun to be in Birmingham for 2 days, covering Alabama basketball and SEC basketball as a whole. So we're getting out of here for the night. I appreciate everybody who watched both episodes today. We had the SEC men's basketball edition that aired earlier in the day, and that was with Dan Harralson just now with Vols Wire, starting to get ready for the Tennessee matchup, as well with a little bit of Alabama women's basketball. So we'll get out of here for the day. I'm going to tune in to Hey Coach for you guys on BamaCentral.com. You can follow us at Joe Gaither 6 on any and all of the social media platforms. And of course, subscribe, rate, review the show, send it to a friend. We will be back again tomorrow with a Football Friday edition of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central.